This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now I am so excited for today's guest because I've been trying to get her on since Halloween of 22. We were going to do a 40th anniversary deep dive at the time, but then things came up, and now today we're going to make it happen on 420, and I'm talking about Ann Wilkinson, the gorgeous, talented blonde who you all may remember from a horror cult classic that is so underrated called The Forest. She played Teddy in that. She will be my second guest from that movie. Gary Kent was my first, but unfortunately, we didn't talk about that movie because I wasn't familiar with it at the time, and there's so much other things I wanted to talk with him about. And it's going to be a great conversation today. I can't wait. She was also in Yuli Lommel's Boogeyman 2. She guest starred on Stingray and Baby Talk, and now she's involved in theater in Arizona. I'm going to find out about that a little bit more, and it's going to be a great conversation. By the way, my YouTube channel is doing great. Please tell all your friends to keep subscribing, even if you're listening to an episode for the first time. Click, like, subscribe, comment. I truly appreciate it. Today is 420, baby. Yeah, smoke 'em if you got 'em, but don't smoke cigarettes. So yeah, here is my interview with Ann Wilkinson. Hey, Ann, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I think I'm all right. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for finally doing this. We're finally here. This is fantastic.
Well, you have been persistent. I'll give you that.
Yes, I am very persistent. So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward acting early on in your childhood?
um, well, I loved it in high school. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not think it was going to be anything that was going to be a career for me. It was just what I did for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went on to college, I had transferred schools my sophomore year, and I thought I was kind of interested in maybe working behind the scenes, doing behind the camera work. And I thought, you know what? If I'm going to do that, I want to know how to talk to actors, because my limited experience with that is the people I'd been around just seemed like they didn't communicate with actors very well. So I decided to take some of the theater courses at the school that I was at, and when I got out, I was an actor. That's where I was. I had gotten sucked into the black hole. There you go.
This is when you were in high school?
It was college, actually, when I got out of college finally. And I was lucky enough that as I was graduating and not knowing quite what I was going to go off and do, a contract actually showed up in the mail for me from a summer stock company saying, hey, we'd like to hire you as an actress for the summer, which was out of the blue because I hadn't auditioned for them. I guess that the director had wandered through and seen a show that I was in at the college that I was at and just sent me a contract. So that was nice. And I kind of ended up in LA the same way. A couple years later, I was back doing summer stock again, and I got a phone call from Universal Studios from remember the old Black Tower?
Oh, yeah.
Mark Malis's office. I got a call from them saying, hey, we'd like you to come out here and audition to be one of our contract players, because they still had contract players way back then.
I talked to a lot of them.
Yeah, and they were the last studio to do that. And it was Monique James had called me and said, come on out, let's audition you. So I flew out. She offered me a place in the contract players, and I said, well, I've got summer stock that I'm committed to again this summer, so I'll be back in the fall. And then, of course, I meandered around there was a boy involved and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't get out there for my original start date. She said, "Oh, that's okay. We'll start you in January." Then she called me in December and said, "We've decided to disband the contract players."
Wow.
So I had basically gotten to Los Angeles not intending to be a professional actor. I just kind of got out there and didn't really know how to go about it. So it was a curve.
Every single one of them claims to be the last contract player at Universal, but I really think you could have been the absolute last one.
Well, I could have been the absolute last one. Yeah. But, oh man, there were some really, really good folks there and in the contract players. And one of the things that they were kind enough to do, even though I had missed the date to get there to sign up, to have my contract signed, was they did stick me in their acting class.
Mm-hmm.
With Vincent Chase.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I was in the class with Vincent, but of course in the meantime I'm having to, scramble around, do all those things that actors have to do to pay rent.
Yeah. So I was curious, when you were doing summer stock, anything stand out that you're proud of, and did you work with anybody that went on to become successful?
I think they've all mostly remained back there. They've all, gone on to primarily, a lot of them are teaching. A lot of them are still back just in the Midwest. This was a little summer stock company in South Dakota. It was the Black Hills Playhouse, which was, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It was in the middle of the Custer State Park, Black Hills Playhouse. You're surrounded by, I literally, it was an old CCC camp that they had converted.
Yeah.
And you'd wake up in the morning and the outhouses were up on the hill, right?
Uh-huh.
The latrines. You might have to wait for the buffalo to meander on before you can go take your shower. But, it was just great fun because we'd rehearse one show in the morning, a second one in the afternoon, and perform a third one at night. And every 2 weeks you had one day off and you'd make a flip, and the show that had been rehearsed in the afternoon became the evening performance. It was pretty intense. I learned a lot.
It sure sounds like it. Wow. So okay, you miss out on the Universal contract. Do you just stay in LA and just pound the pavement until something comes along?
Pretty much. Because I had come out thinking maybe I had a job. The contract players was paid you to do things. So I was there without a whole lot of money. So yeah, I worked in a clothing store. I was the telephone operator for Pacific Mutual Insurance. Back in the day when you sat there with a headset on and put calls through.
Yeah.
I worked as a security guard at the American Film Institute.
Oh, I used to be a security guard.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
imagine you were a much more secure kind of guard than I was,
Oh.
I was 102 pounds sopping wet, and basically I was just there to make sure that the students weren't misbehaving.
Right.
So, yeah, so I did that. So I bartended at the old bar, Tail of the Cock.
Mm-hmm.
Not bartended, I cocktail waitressed. I did all those things that actors do. And then waited for, got an agent and got to get out on some auditions, and there you go.
How do you get cast in The Forest?
Well, I'm not sure. My memory is that I saw an ad in Backstage and submitted my picture, but I'm not sure that's true. And I went and I auditioned for Don Jones in his office, and he liked the way I screamed. He really liked my screaming. And it was oh my gosh. I mean, this is like 3 or 4 lifetimes ago for me, of course, but
Yeah.
I was so excited. It was non-union, and as was I, and I made $100 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to, I worked 7 days for pay. I think I threw in a day for free somewhere.
Yeah.
But that $700 allowed me to quit my job because my rent was paid. This was back in the day when rent was a little more reasonable.
Oh, yeah.
My rent was paid for 6 weeks, and I could concentrate on going to auditions.
Wow.
So it was a big bonus for me. That was huge. So that was my first professional LA job.
Yeah, now I talked to Gary Kent back in 2020, and unfortunately we didn't get to talk about this movie. The guy was so prolific. There were so many iconic things I wanted to talk about, and I hadn't even seen this movie yet, but I saw it not long after, and everything. I was gonna have him back on in 22, but I noticed he started taking long breaks from Facebook, and that gave me the sign that his health wasn't so good. But he was such a great guy who lived an extraordinary life and everything. What was he like to work with?
Oh, he was very, very, very nice. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him because basically he just killed me.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what? Okay, so I'm going to admit I watched this film the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I watched The Forest, which I had not seen since way back.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen it in 40 years, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a scene that I was missing. That was the one I've always shared. I spent time hanging upside down in a tree with blood dripping off of me.
Yeah.
And it's not in the scene. And I know I have a Polaroid of that somewhere. And so I spent about an hour tearing up the house looking for I have a Polaroid of me hanging upside down with blood dripping. And I can't find it.
Yeah.
I was very sad that was cut because I'm pretty sure it was in the original version. Mm-hmm. But I remember them, lifting me up into the tree, hanging me up upside down, dripping stuff off of me. And then after about 10, 15 minutes, when they got me down, I really needed the beer they handed me.
That's awesome.
But Gary was very nice. He was very kind.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him talking to me about, making sure I fell without getting hurt, showing me how to fall and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like working with his wife, Tommy? I mean, you and her had great chemistry. I mean, you two were very believable as best friends.
She was funny. She was aware that it was my first anything, mm-hmm. right? So she was very kind to me. I remember her saying to me, this isn't stage. You don't have to wiggle around quite so much. I was like, oh, okay. But she was just, I think we had the kind of chemistry that was written in the script, and I enjoyed her a lot. She was quite nice.
Yeah, Jones almost lost his house trying to get this movie funded. I was reading. I was like, God, that's extraordinary.
I think, did he, you mean Don Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know about that at the time. I do know, when he came to me and we had done the shoot up in the Sequoias, which was so much fun. We had such a great time and they treated us really well. And then he had come to me and he said, hey, can you throw in a day for me? And I think I believe that's the day we were shooting we were in the caves, and that was like in Hollywood, like there, accessible. And so I knew that it was a tight crunch, but of course I was so green, I didn't know how much it cost to make movies back then.
Yeah. And you were the first victim of the movie. It doesn't seem like he wanted to be he wanted it to be super gory or anything like that.
No, I liked that. I did
Yeah.
like that. I liked in watching it. It really followed that old adage of let the audience's imagination do the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the scene from the old John Wayne movies where he'd ride up and look down at the massacre, but you saw the reflection on his face as opposed to seeing all the blood and gore and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought he did a nice job with that.
And it's also one of the few early 80s slasher movies that doesn't have any nudity in it.
Yes. How nice for us.
Yeah. Yeah, the music is so beautiful. It belongs in another movie. So does the pop songs. I guess they were all local LA artists that Jones hired. They're beautiful pop songs in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Jeanette Kelly, who plays the dead mom, she's still working, and she looks exactly the same. I saw recent pictures of her.
Oh, wow. She was scary.
Yeah. And so were the little boy and the little girl who come back from the dead, and it's so dark that he had them say that they killed themselves.
Yeah. Well, and Corky Pigeon, he stayed in the business for a while. He did all right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was in Silver Spoons, I think.
Yeah.
He was around. So, after I stopped acting, I was a casting director for a number of years in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And so it always gave me a kick when I'd see some of these folks wander in for auditions,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy.
But, yeah.
So you guys had like a rap party and everything?
You know what? I don't remember.
You don't remember if there was like a screening?
I don't remember a rap party. I kind of stayed like I said, I kind of stayed in touch with folks. Dean Russell. It was around for a while, and I think, if I recall correctly, he was Frank Oz's nephew. That's what brought him out to L.A.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I remember him telling me that anyway. So, I mean, we were sort of all trying to get our feet wet a little bit there, and I remember seeing him once or twice. But I did end up, the old adage: you get one job, then you get another job.
Yes.
I got cast in a play shortly thereafter, and
is that a New Day in Eden?
Well, New Day in Eden came later on, and that was a Showtime series. That was the first, like, a series made for Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself was a fairly interesting experience.
Oh, it has to be to have Laura Parker from Dark Shadows and Brink Stevens in it.
Yeah. Well, and we had a pretty good time with that one. So I don't know.
What was the play you did after The Forest?
That I believe was that I think might have been The Lion in Winter with Joan Fontaine.
Okay, nice. That's a good movie.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think that's where that one came in. But I was out of town, because we weren't doing theater in Los Angeles. We were doing theater elsewhere. So anyway, so you know who else was in New Day in Eden was Jack Wagner.
Oh yeah.
And Larry Poindexter. Do you know either of them?
I know their names. Yes.
Yeah. So both of them were around and were quite a bit of fun. But the whole experience with The Forest was, it was such a great way to be introduced to the business because everybody involved with it was very nice, very professional.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was kind of a run and gun production. I didn't realize that most shoots don't go that fast. Since this was my first one. And one of the stories that I have always shared with my students about filming is because I've been teaching now since like 2000. We were doing the scene out in the forest by the campfire.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just was told, I just don't stop, just keep going no matter what happens. Well, they had the fires lit, which were bringing in all these moths.
Mm-hmm.
And they just said, just don't stop, do whatever. So I'm sitting there and I'm saying my lines, whatever, and this moth lands on my face, crawls through my mouth, across my tongue, and out the other side. And I just kept going because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And Don, when he noticed it, he called cut. He goes, okay, we're going to do it again. We're going to, take the level of the fires down a little bit for a while, see if we can get rid of some of these moths. And if that happens again, you can stop. I was like, okay. I was concentrating, though, I was going to do my job.
Oh, that's crazy. Then you do Boogeyman 2.
Yes, Boogeyman 2. That was interesting. Somehow I got involved with that. I think it was through... Somehow the connection to that one came through friends of mine who were with Off the Wall. Do you remember Lynn Stewart and...
I know Lynn, yeah, and Walter Okowitz.
Yes, Walter Okowitz, but it was
Rest in peace.
Pre-Walter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy Goldman.
Jed Mills.
No, let's see, who did I know?
Oh, no, Jed was in the War Babies, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, I know the Mice People, and they had a sketch comedy show called Off the Wall.
Yeah. Anyway, this was the group that D. Marcus had founded, and Robin Williams hung around and was with the group a lot like that. And anyway, somehow one of them, one of the guys, I think Bob Rosenfarb, who ended up being a producer in Los Angeles for many, many years. Mm-hmm. Bob knew about this audition, and he suggested they come in. And I think they had Tom Tully helping with some rewrites or something. Because my memory of that shoot is that I kind of got the job, and there wasn't really a script yet. And they were sitting in the bedroom upstairs writing the script, and then they'd bring you a page. Mm-hmm. You do it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, they were fixing the script in the other room, and then they'd carry it out, give you a page, and say, okay, do this. And then somebody decided I should have a Southern accent, which I think was probably pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think I had a very bad Southern accent, so.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. I mean, I've seen the first Boogeyman, and I interviewed the associate producer, Jillian Gordon, who was Susanna Love's best friend. And it's a good little Halloween ripoff. I like it. What was it like working with Yuli Lommel?
Again, fine. I don't have a whole lot of memory of it. I think I just was there for 1, maybe 2 days.
Do you get killed?
Not only do I get killed, I get choked to death with fireplace tongs.
Okay.
and then I had a really nice moment where I'm laying dead with my head in the kitchen sink, and I'm draped off the counter, and it was a lot of fun. But,
oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So I got to be choked. Lots of close-ups of my eyes, I think, and my mouth, my tongue, that kind of thing. So Yeah.
I gotta see that one. You were
Oh,
you're on the soap opera Santa Barbara. Now, people have told me that soap operas are the hardest jobs to do because you have to memorize like 50 pages of dialogue a day, and if you fuck it up, you're gone.
yeah. I actually had done New Day in Eden before that, and we really did have to memorize tons and tons and tons of stuff for that because they were trying to shoot it a different way.
Yeah.
But yes, and Santa Barbara I wasn't on there very long, whatever my character's name was. I was a nurse. I was in love with the doctor, and I had a lot of staring at him like I was hypnotized and saying yes sir, things like that. But again, I think the pace of the way you shoot a soap opera is so demanding. You come in, you you do your rehearsal basically for the cameras and the lights, and then the next time they see you, you're shooting it. And I was not good at using cue cards. I truly had to have it memorized, or else it didn't work for me as a performer. But because the New Day and Eden scripts were longer, and I was in about 4 out of every 5 episodes, I got pretty good at taking a weekend learning 5 scripts or 4 scripts and being able to come in. The nice thing about a soap opera is your character often repeats the same thing, or at least a variation of the same thing, right, from scene to scene. So, and if you really get stuck, you could do those oh my god stares, and it works. It looks like acting.
One of those episodes had Ronnie Shell on there. I just had him on recently, and he's mostly known for his comedy. He was Duke on Gomer Pyle, USMC.
Oh my gosh. Well, they provide a lot of work for actors.
They sure do, especially if you're talented like he is.
Yeah.
I saw your episode of Stingray on YouTube. You were great in it.
Oh, you're really kind about that. Again, a couple of my favorite scenes were cut, but boy, I had fun shooting that. I was up in Canada for like 2 weeks doing that, and we were laughing because for some reason they decided they wanted to give me the ugliest clothes they could find. They did pretty well with that. But that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, at one point I was going to interview Nick Mancuso, and then he dropped off of Facebook, unfortunately. But
yeah, he's kind of disappeared, hasn't he?
He has. I know he's back in Canada working on stuff up there and stuff, but for the most part, yeah. And he's a very prolific actor, I'll tell you. He's done a lot of stuff.
He's done a lot of stuff. He was really nice and supportive to work with. He just... A lot of times, the star doesn't want to take the time to rehearse, but he was out there and he'd say, you want to run some stuff? Yeah, let's walk this. He was great.
Yeah, that movie he did, Ticket to Heaven, where he's in the brainwashing cult. Oh my God, how did he not get an Oscar nomination for that? He was so good in it.
I haven't seen that. I will have to watch that.
It was 1981. It was like... he had worked, right, but that was like the first thing that got him noticed out here and stuff, and then they were calling him the next De Niro, and then, of course, he rejected a lot of popular movies in favor of stuff that was, more to his liking and stuff, but it's a great movie. It's also one of Kim Cattrall's first movies. She plays a girl who's in the cult with him.
Huh. Yeah. Okay, I'll have to look for that.
It's most likely on YouTube. That's the last time I watched it was on YouTube. You did 3 episodes of Baby Talk. Now, I've talked to people who were on that show, and they told me it was not a pleasant experience for all involved. But what was your experience?
Well, the way I got involved in that was kind of backhanded. By that point, I was already working with my casting company. I had gotten back from being on the road doing How to Succeed in Business with Donald O'Connor, and I'd been gone for over 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got back to Hollywood, I was like, okay, I've been on stage for 6 months. I'd better, see what it's like to be on camera again. And so I had signed up for a commercial workshop at Tepper Gallegos Casting. I don't know if you remember them or not. And
Probably.
I went in. Yeah, so I went in and I was in the class, and at the end of the class, Dennis Gallegos, who was teaching the class, pulled me aside and said, well, how would you like to teach this class instead of take this class? You should be teaching it. To which I replied, well, your ads all say your classes are all taught by casting directors, and I'm from Iowa. I can't lie about that.
Yeah.
He said, well, come and help us with some casting sessions. So 2 weeks later, I was part owner of a casting company.
Wow.
So, and Dennis and I eventually bought Estelle Tepper out, who was his original partner, and that's what I ended up doing. I was married at the time, so I was looking for a reason to stay in town, in my house with my dog and my husband, and it seemed like casting might be the way to go. So that's a very long way to get around to the fact that one of the things my business partner and I became really well known for, we were known as being able to work really well with children and babies, as well as with celebrities, okay, who can be babies as well, right?
Yeah.
So we did the casting for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, a bunch of those things.
Oh, I love those.
So, yeah, so then we were doing a lot of like the Michelin tire commercials when they used babies, the Huggies diapers when they used babies. We did a lot of that. So when they were looking for to make Baby Talk as a television series, then they came to us and asked us to cast the kids, because we knew we were going to have, you can only have kids on set under the lights, et cetera, for so long. So you have to be able to flip them in and out and switch them. And so what ended up happening is that, they had the mommy daycare thing, and my business partner and I were always on set supervising when they worked with the babies, or actually working with the babies to get the reactions that they wanted. We became baby wranglers. And so they asked me to be in these scenes with all these babies. So that's what I was doing. And I did not find it unpleasant. Our first cast for it was a little difficult.
Yeah, I know.
And then they had to recast it. But otherwise it was all good. You know?
Because I'll tell you, when it first premiered, I was a huge fan of the Look Who's Talking movies, and I thought this was going to be, it was going to be like a long-running series because those movies had been so popular. But then, I guess, because, at the end of the day, they were not critically acclaimed, it was probably only natural that this series was going to only last a short time.
Yeah, I think... I think it was just the wrong, it didn't follow the movie well. How's that?
The wrong connections.
But also,
yeah.
Yeah, and our first lead was George Clooney.
Yeah.
And he was not happy.
Oh yeah, I've heard him say that it was a low point in his career, and then he did another series right after it. It was kind of a ripoff of 21 Jump Street, kind of a show he did right after. Yeah. And then, of course, he struck gold with ER, and then when he struck gold with that, there was no stopping George Clooney.
Yeah. So, and then from there, we ended up also getting to do the kids for, was it Frasier?
Yeah.
And that was a totally different experience. That was quite nice. One of my my favorite things was how well they'd had the baby. Ted Danson came out and laid down on the floor to make sure the babies weren't scared of him, and he just was lovely. He was good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And then Farewell to Harry. That was like Carl Valentine's last movie, right?
I actually think they have me mislisted on that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. Or I really don't have any memory of Farewell to Harry, and I know that they've got me on that on IMDb, and I've tried to pull it off a couple of times. I tend to pull things off of IMDb.
They do that. Yeah. I mean, there's probably another Ann Wilkinson who was in it.
Yeah. Or somebody who liked my name.
Yeah, I know. I mean, which brings me to my next question. I mean, we all know that IMDb is inaccurate. Are there any other things that you did that maybe they didn't bring up?
I haven't looked at it in so long. I left the business pretty much in like 1996. I went back to Iowa to be with my mother, who was ill,
mm-hmm.
and so I've been gone from LA for a long time. I stayed, I ended up serving on the Screen Actors Guild board in Chicago, and I've done it out here where I am now as well. But in terms of being a performer or any of that stuff, I kind of left that all behind. But yes, they are known for their inaccuracies. But that's okay. At least they're out there for people to do some research.
So, how did you end up in Arizona?
Well, after my mom passed, and I had been ready to go back to LA, and I was asked by a college there if I would be interested in covering somebody's sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
And, my background was improv, so just say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Learn on. It's like I said with the casting company. Somebody asked me to join the cast. Just say yes, because you're going to find out something you didn't know. And so, 14 years later, I was still teaching, and I said, I really am tired of snow. So I started looking for another job, and I ended up out here because of the interviews I got. This was the place I liked the most. I liked being back with a mixed community. I like being back where it's warm, although it gets pretty darn warm here. And I thought, I'll be close to LA. I can run into LA and see my friends, which hasn't happened very much, but yeah. That's kind of how I ended up back here. Plus, I looked at this. I'm at this little college that it's a community college, which is different. I was teaching at a 4-year school before, and I looked at what they had around here in terms of theater, and I thought, I can help them. I can do some stuff with them, maybe improve the relationship of the community to theater. So, because they have a lot of arts, a lot of music, all those things that you can do inside by yourself when it's hot. But we all know you can't do theater by yourself.
Right.
So, anyway, I've been having fun with it. The kids and the students. The fun thing is my first class that I taught here had a grandfather, because it's a community college, a grandfather, a 14-year-old high school student, and everything else in between. Folks from 2 different Native American tribes, Latinos, and it's just a nice mix. I like the cultural mix.
Yeah, I lived in Arizona for 3 months back in 2007, and I had to come back
where?
in Glendale.
Okay.
I had to leave. It was just too hot over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's already, today, it's in the 90s. It's going to be a long, hot summer, I think. But,
yeah.
My thinking is that if you're in the Midwest, you're inside because of cold snow and ice for 4 months. why not just be inside here because of 120 degrees for 4 months?
Right.
It's just a trade-off.
Yeah.
And the Mexican food is really good.
Oh yeah. I got Mexicans in my family on my mom's cousin's side. Yeah, and they got some really good Mexican food. We went to some taquerias out there.
Oh yeah.
I saw on your Facebook something was posted about Cesar Romero. Did you know him?
I did a show with Caesar. Oh my gosh, yes, I knew him very well. In fact, he was just wonderful. The show that we did together was the Max Factor, and it was written for Caesar by Marcy Vosberg and Sandy Sprung, and it was Marcy had worked with him when she was younger in Chicago area. You probably know Marcy was one of the staff writers for Married with Children.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's one of my favorite shows.
Marcy and Sandy had written this play for Caesar, and I got to do it with him for a while, And the reason I dropped out is I got married and bought a house, and that whole thing of wanting to be around my husband for a while. Mm-hmm. But when we had our housewarming, so here's the thing: Caesar was old school, elegant. Delightful, funny, magical stories.
Yeah.
And if you told him, the party starts at 6, he liked parties. He was there at 5:30, right?
Yeah.
So for the first few years that whenever I'd have a party, Caesar would be invited, and he'd come early, and he would answer the door. So imagine being a struggling actress and having Cesar Romero answer your door and let your partygoers in.
Yeah.
it was really good for my reputation. He was delightful. He was really truly
elegantly handsome man. He didn't want to shave his mustache to play the Joker.
No, he was smart enough to know that was his look. Yeah. And once people figure that out, so like Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck.
Of course.
Tom wanted to, what I was told, Milton Gonzalez was our acting teacher. And Tom wanted to do Shakespeare. And Milton said to him, you're not going to get hired for Shakespeare. He has when he was younger especially, he had a little bit higher voice. Mm-hmm. And Milton told him, work on lowering your voice and grow a mustache.
Love it.
And that's at least the story I was told in acting class by Milton. So and it worked for him. But Caesar always knew, because originally he was a dancer. Mm-hmm. And so elegant ballroom dancing. It was really fun to go out with him. And when we were out touring with the show, in Texas and New Orleans and places like that, he was always so gracious. He would sign any number of autographs, and he loved to go dancing, and he loved to have a Greyhound or two to drink. He was just an elegant, lovely man.
Yeah, I've talked to many of Milton's students and stuff. Let's see if you recognize any of these names. Sandra Curry.
Yeah.
Gloria Gifford, Lisa Pescia.
Oh, definitely. Lisa was in my class.
Marcy Levy.
Don't know Marcy.
She's a musician first and foremost, but she took some acting classes for Milton, she told me, and she's friends with Lisa. John William Young.
Nope.
Rick Podell.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, funny guy. I just had him on recently.
Yeah.
So today is 420. Are you a fan of marijuana?
I am not, although I have a brother who is. Yes. Mm. So, which is the Quentin Tarantino? Is it Pulp Fiction that all the clocks are set at 420?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's some good parties out there today.
Of course, of course. So, do you have any plays or anything upcoming?
We just finished doing Lysistrata, which is really timely. 2,500-year-old play, anti-war peace play, and one of the things I do try to do as an educator is expose my students to all different time periods. So they had a good time with that one. They even got to make their own togas, which was fun. My students just directed a night of one-act, 10-minute plays that went very well. And we are partnering with, I'm just kind of producing this one. We're partnering with the local community theater to do a strange little musical from Canada called Ride the Cyclone.
I like that title.
And you would like it because it's about a handful of teenagers that get killed in the cyclone is the ride at the fair, right?
It's a horror play.
It's a horror play, only it's a horror musical, yes.
Love it.
You would like it, because they're talking to one of those, what you call it, a fortune teller in a box. You put the money in, it gives you a fortune.
Yeah.
So it's got some of those elements in it, but they're having a really good time with it, and I'm just glad that I'm only producing this time. I'm ready for break.
That is so awesome that you're still doing what you love, and you're getting a satisfaction teaching.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the world has changed since COVID and how that's affected education.
Absolutely.
And how it's affected. Aren't you finding that it's affected the entertainment industry a lot?
Oh yeah, it certainly has. I just, ever since the strike last year, I'm just waiting to see what direction it's going to go into next.
Well, and having been a casting director in the past, it was a long time ago. I did do some casting when I was in Iowa. I did some stuff, just kind of when things would wander through the state, I would help with a few things. But casting has changed a lot. Everybody has to self-submit, and it's all online. And friends of mine who are still in the business have really, really mixed feelings about that.
Yeah.
You don't have the same relationship with the casting folks. I don't know. It's
People are starting to speak up about it. I saw something on Facebook News the other day that a well-known actor was talking about. We don't want to do self-tape auditions anymore because that's not how you do it. So the more people speak out about it, I think it's going to go back to in person.
Well, I know Actors Equity is having some conversations about it because seeing a singing audition on tape is not nearly the same as hearing it live in person, and I know that many of the callbacks are going back at least to live, but I don't know. I mean, presumably it should give more actors an opportunity to be considered, but in the end run, I'm not sure how it works.
Not sure either. Real quick, we gotta play my secret silly game. This is a series of silly slumber party questions. It's no win or lose, it's just pure fun. And how the game works, Ann, is I ask you the question, you answer it, and then you ask me that exact same question and I answer it. And feel free to comment on the answers, because they might be funny.
Okay. I ask you the same question you ask me, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Ann, are you ticklish?
Yes. Are you ticklish?
Yes. If you tickle me without warning, I might hit you in the groin.
Well, that's a survival technique, Tommy.
It sure is. Is your belly button an innie or an outie?
I have an innie belly button, Tommy. And how about you?
I also have an innie.
And you know what? When we were casting for diaper commercials for Huggies, babies were disqualified if they had an outie.
Really?
Yes, we could only hire babies with innies.
I remember seeing a lot of Audis in diaper commercials when I was a kid.
Well, that was our rule for Huggies.
Interesting. I don't even remember what brands they were. All I remember is Huggies, but wow, that is interesting. That's a interesting little factoid there.
There you go.
What color are your toenails painted?
My toenails are currently not painted. And Tommy, what color are yours?
Right now, they are light purple.
Oh, I was expecting green.
No, I just did them purple today.
Okay, nice choice.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they look very pretty. What would you say is your best personality trait?
Oh, my best personality trait is probably my ability to adapt. I'm very adaptable. How about you? What's your best personality trait?
I have empathy and I have no filter.
Okay, no filter. Okay. Well, it kind of goes hand in hand, with being adaptable. I always think people in the theater or in film, you have to adapt at a moment's notice constantly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I am the same way. I'm a Gemini, just like you are.
Oh, well, congratulations to all of you.
Yeah. I'm June 6th.
Oh, see, we're close. But I really think the Geminis, it's not just two. It's like the two split into two, into two. We have many, many facets, like a well-cut gem.
Many. Gary was June 7th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you could have anything named after you, what would it be?
If I could have anything named after me?
Yeah.
Oh, I think a special ice cream dish. How about you?
A vibrator.
Oh my God! You don't have a filter.
Yeah.
And it would be purple, no doubt.
It probably would be, yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I'd call it the Tommy Chatsy.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
And then my favorite question, is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
A stinky smell that just makes me gag would be, oh my goodness. Well, my dogs manage to make some of those sometimes and leave them on the floor for me. So, yes, dog poo. How about you?
Yeah, either farts or dirty feet.
Dirty feet, that's a good close second. Yeah, depending on whose feet they are, that's for sure.
And thank you so much for finally coming on today. You are just a lot of fun, and you are such a gem, a real gem.
Oh, Tommy, thank you. And I'm sorry it was such a pill, but it's been a busy, busy year. And that's why I said I'm really looking forward to winding down and having the summer off where I will stay inside because it's too hot.
Yes, well, I haven't been back to Arizona since 2007, but if I get to go back in the future, let's get together or something,
I would love that. That would be grand.
Wonderful. You have yourself a great 420 and be safe.
You too. Happy 420 back at you. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Ann Wilkinson, ain't she a sweetheart? Oh my God, what a great lady. She was much more funnier and charming and joyful than I expected her to be. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!